I play Pat Houlihan. This is the Merlin to Seann's King Arthur, or Ratso Rizzo to his Midnight Cowboy, and I'm just your quintessential Massachusetts miscreant with a real addiction to hockey and hockey violence, I suppose. And so Pat runs Hot Ice, his sort of really crappy website / cable access show about ghetto-ass hockey. And, you know, he just has, he's a student of the game, student of all things hockey. And so when it comes time for Dougie to step up, Pat has a few words of wisdom to impart upon him. I'm Pat Houlihan. I love fucking hockey and cameras. No, I'm responsible for the Dogma 95 aesthetic that's present in the movie. I'm the one walking around the video camera, taping fights, ganking interviews, and spurring him on to the heights I know he can achieve.
Yeah, I played Doug Glatt. He's a good guy who he works as a bouncer and hasn't really figured out his place in the world. He comes from a successful family of doctors and doesn't really quite fit in, and loves hockey. And he and his best friend go to this hockey game one day, and he gets an opportunity to show what he's pretty good at, and he beats up this hockey player on the opposing team. He was jumping over the glass and is about to charge my buddy, and I take him out, and I get this opportunity to play for the local team. He can't skate at all, so it's pretty good because I can't skate very well. and
it didn't help that we put you in female figure skates either.
That was kind of hard. But and so he learns enough about hockey where he's making an impact, and then he ends up going forward, and he figures out what he's good at, which is protecting people. I should have played more hockey growing up in Minnesota, but I'd like to say we just couldn't afford it. So I played basketball. You just need a basketball.
Yeah,
so
right.
Basketball, baseball, and football. But
Were you the odd man out in your friends?
Yeah, pretty much. I got a lot of shit for playing basketball in Minnesota. I'm like 5'11", 6 feet. I couldn't even touch the net, but I mean, but I've always loved hockey. I was always jealous that because it was such a cooler sport, and so I got to have some fun in this movie. Got to act like a tough guy, and but boy, do I suck at skating. I still suck. I tried to take my girl to the Rockefeller Center, thinking that we can skate there now, and I thought it was gonna be a lot better. Dude.
No, he's got awful. He's a terrible skater. Wonderful heart, incredible work ethic, very talented actor, very tough bastard. World's worst skater.
I never learned how to stop, dude.
No, he really didn't.
We incorporated it into the
Stop,
movie.
you never learned how to stand, stay put. Like, you never learned how to do anything.
Hey.
I mean,
It was all right at the ankle skating.
You sold it. You threw some punches that looked real.
Yeah.
Growing up where I grew up, I didn't really have much choice in the matter. I like to in Montreal, Quebec, and in Oshawa, Ontario, and Jewish on Dad's side, Irish Catholic on Mom's. Really, our religion was the Habs. That was it. Even when I lived in Ontario, and I was the only kid not in Leafs crap. Dad was still spray painting all of my furniture bleu, blanc, rouge, all the Habs colors, and it was just like. I grew up hearing my dad swearing at the TV, and I grew up in a house where we really respected what it is to be an enforcer. For kids of my generation, I find that a lot of our dads are sort of either Gretzky's the man or Gretzky's a pussy, and my dad was Gretzky's a pussy. And so the sort of hard-nosed guys were the guys that Dad always liked. And I remember meeting John Cordick when I was 4 years old, and Chris Nyland, and so I just was raised as a Habs fan. But specifically also with a surplus of respect for the tough guys. And so when I was asked by my friend Evan Goldberg, who said, I've met these producers and they want to make this movie Goon based on this book, but I don't know the first thing about hockey. I told them, you know hockey, and I was like, I like to think I do. And So basically, I took everything I love about the game and about that position in particular, which I find to be the most unique, least understood position in professional sports. And I just threw it into the food processor that is my head, and I wanted to write something that was interesting and about a dude that was sympathetic and compelling, but none of that would mean anything if the hockey and the fighting sucked. So I tried to write what is most exciting to see in hockey and in fights as a fan, and built a movie around that. And then you know, my dad's voice guided me the whole way.
That's great. And he's so nice, which is an incredible touch
That's exactly right.
to put on it, you know.
Well, we figured, you know, like it was like our director, Michael Dowse, put it perfectly. He said, you know, Doug can beat the shit out of anyone because he's the nicest guy ever. We bought ourselves license to do whatever for him to mess up guys left and right, you know, and also, but you know that wasn't so much a conscious decision as it was. Most of the guys I've met like that, most of the hardest guys I know are also the most polite guys I know, and the kindest guys I know. You know, these are guys that, you know, you can get your ass kicked really quickly if that's what you're looking for, but if you mind your own business and you're polite, you'll never meet nicer people. And hockey to me is a very blue collar sport and has that work ethic that permeates all of it. And so it made complete sense to me that Doug would be polite. Of course, as I started writing and got a bit inebriated, it kind of went a bit crazy with it. I started writing him in like old-timey speak, and but then I just kind of had this weird iconoclast character that I sort of fell in love with, and just thank God he did it, because I swear to God there was no backup plan. If he didn't do it, there literally I couldn't tell you who we would have offered it to.
That's nice. Thanks, dude.
Honestly, we would have been screwed. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's most interesting in drama, in sports, in anything is when two either like-minded or diametrically opposed forces have to meet. And it was also very important to me when I was writing it that we don't build Liev up as the bad guy. I thought it was a much more interesting place to put the audience in if they are actually they feel connected to both of them, you know, because really they're the same dude at different parts of their life, right? It's Liev fighting the rookie version of himself. And so, you know, and we got a lot of flack throughout it that people were like, well, we should make Liev a bit meaner. He's too nice. And I said, well, that's the whole point, is that when they fight, the audience will still be rooting for Dougie, but they're not going to hate this man. And like, that's conventional wisdom dictates you got to make the protagonist fight somebody that the audience will hate. And to me, that antagonist is Doug's body and people's misconceptions about him. That's what he has to fight. Liev, to me, I just saw these. I saw them really as like gunfighters in the Old West, and that, like, you know, the new kid on the block and his, you know, a couple of towns over, the Sarasota kid hears about Cherokee McGraw coming, you know, like, and that eventually they're going to have to hate, you know, see each other. They're going to have to figure this out at some point. And once I kind of knew that, it took on this operatic quality, and that's kind of what we built the movie around, was this final fight between the two of them.
I was so excited to shoot it with him, with Liev, and I have a funny thing is he's just got that awesome voice, you know, and I watched the movie, and I don't know if you could tell, but like all of a sudden my voice gets a little bit deeper. And like if for one scene in the whole movie, and I don't remember going, wow, his voice is deep. I sound like a pussy. I gotta get down a little bit deeper. But I definitely, it's like Doug's all of a sudden starts talking a little bit deeper in the scene. But it was just, I mean, in this when we shot this scene, I mean, I learned so much from Seann, from Liev and other actors in the movie, but he was just so good. I mean, it was just like, there was times where I was like, oh man, you gotta stay in it, because I would be kind of watching what he's doing. I was like, he's just so
Which
so
was great
strong.
for us, because that was the dynamic, right, for between Doug and Ray, you know. And so to see Seann that sort of enamored and in awe of what Liev, because Liev, it's hard not to notice him. He's a force of nature. The guy's, what, 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds, and just all of that pure charisma. And I remember we got this footage of him, one of his practices skating in New York before he came out to Manitoba, And then he picks a fight with the cameraman and does his Canadian accent, his hoser accent. And I brought it to Seann. I was like, I just want to show you this is who's coming. And I remember you were like, oh man, he's huge. He's so scary. Who's going to believe that I could punch him? I was like, trust me, they will.
Movie magic.
Last time we saw him, he was kicking Wolverine's ass.
Yeah.
Right, I know, I saw that. And then I was watching Salt. I was like, oh, great. He's like a super spy agent. Like, I drank semen in American Pie. How am I going to take this guy down?
But you own him and George LaRock.
Yep.
Honestly, that's like...
Yeah, man, I kicked their asses.
And as part of the script, is in the vein of homage to Enforcers, he actually takes your words.
Yeah, it's
and
great.
Then he's reading off the paper.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
One of my favorite moments of his, and there's so many, but is at the very end after, at the end of the fight, and he's knocked down, and he's got this smile on his face, and it's just so cool. It's just such, because there's so much, you can interpret that a few different ways, and it's just, and I think was it his idea?
That's all his idea. Like, I really just wanted him to be knocked the fuck out, you know? And Liev had this idea that when he spits out his tooth at the end, what if he's smiling? And it was just one of these,
Cool moments.
of course! And it's
Yeah.
just like, as he said, you can interpret it so many ways. He loves the kid. Oh man, the kid can really fight. This is how I'm supposed to end. This is how it's supposed to end for me. You know, there's like but it's just one of these like, and to analyze it kind of defeats the purpose because it is what it is. That's the moment. But yeah, that it gives me goosebumps every time Liev smirks at the end. And that's like in that one moment he encapsulates our entire movie in one facial expression. This the brotherhood, the appreciation, this thankless job, all the different layers of it, all in that little smirk. Yeah, amazing.
Maybe it's over for him. Like maybe it's like, you know, it's like, okay, I've done my thing. Yeah.
Bookend. This is and rather than go out like a punk, I went out getting my tooth knocked out. Like, you know, there's a bunch of cool stuff there. Anytime you ever get to hear hockey players talking to each other on the bench, anytime they're mic'd up, I defy you to listen and not laugh. You know, and it wasn't so sort of, to me, I knew going into it that what was going to be funny about our movie wasn't about putting ridiculous characters in crazy situations so much as just how these boys all relate to one another. There's something inherently funny about it, and truthful. And then we wanted our fight scenes to have teeth. You know, like we wanted everything to be what it is to be in the stands. You know, hockey is a hard movie to shoot, and so often hockey in movies is far too slow, far too precious. So we really made efforts to put, you know, Michael Dowse, our incredible director, he put the camera in spots it's never been before. And then our fighting, that was, you know, it's a Canadian movie, right, with not an embarrassment of resources. So we really have to pick our moments. And the one thing that we always had time and effort for and money and resources was for these fights, because that's the movie. And we just like, it comes from Dowse and I and a lot of other guys being kind of pissed off that the balls have been cut off of movies as of late, the sort of PG-13ization of the world. And this is not to say that this is glorifying anything, but this is like, it can be pretty messy and pretty mean, and we got to show that, because what's the point of making this movie if we don't? And so yeah, there's some guys really get their asses kicked in that one.
Yeah, filming it is probably close to a fight as a movie would be, because it was. I mean, it was intense. I mean, not all the fight. I mean, but it was. What was fantastic about it too is like, and credit to filmmakers is that, you know, we shot everything, but almost everything on skates, on ice. So it wasn't, you know, they didn't break it down where, you know, you're standing on solid ground and you're gonna shoot, you know, 2 moves and then they're gonna cut and they're gonna piece it all together. I would be out, and we didn't have tons of time to rehearse either. I mean, and the movie benefited in a major way because of it, because there was just this awesome energy. You'd be out there. And oftentimes, because we'd only get the rinks from like 11 o'clock at night to noon, 1 o'clock the next day, because it's hockey season. And and be like, okay, so we meet the actor I'm supposed to be fighting. He's usually about 2 inches taller than me, and it's like a hockey fighter, a hockey player, and a guy who's no joke. I mean, like, he's not coming off of the sequel to Dude, Where's My Car? I mean, like, this guy's a fighter, and it's a different kind of fighting. And so it's like, okay, you're gonna throw like 3 right crosses. He's gonna hit you 4 times. You're gonna like give him an upper cross. You're gonna give him a headbutt. You're gonna give him another headbutt, and then you're gonna throw him against the glass. So you're gonna give him 2 more punches, and a couple you're gonna take like 10 in the face, and then you punch him, and he's gonna throw his tooth's gonna come out this way. And so you want to do that real quick, and then we'll go. Wait, what? Wait. And then we would rehearse a little bit, like, yeah, like, okay, let's shoot it. And we would just go for it. I mean, and it was, obviously it was so well done, but it really shows in the movie. There's just this awesome, wild energy to it, and it looks real.
Yeah, well, and I find that
we met some guys. I'm sorry, but like some guys were like, I want to get hit in the face.
Yeah.
I'm like, sweet.
So there's some real impacts as well, and that energy, that sort of frenetic, real blood and sweat, that's all that translates to the hockey as well, right? We made this movie on the backs of the boys that skated in our flick. The local Winnipeg boys that we got to play all the Highlanders and all the Shamrocks and everyone. These are boys that would skate and or fight 12 hours a night every night, then go back and do their 9 to 5s. Bartending, waiting tables, driving fire trucks. Literally, Larry Wu was he drives the fire truck in Winnipeg, and these boys would like just come out, and all of a sudden they'd be like, all right, cool, let's do it. And then I was like, they just expend all this energy. And so we're as opposed to, like he said, as opposed to just like taking 10 hours to do one little piece, the whole movie moves at this crazy, almost documentary kind of thing, because it has all this, it's all actually happening as quickly and violently as it seems.
I love when you're teaching them how to, when you're getting
Yeah.
at it.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, that's something really cool about our movie, is that like we are finally, it's nice to see a movie that treats hockey fighting as its own martial art, which it literally is. It's its own specific discipline with its own rules. He's a fairly talented jiu-jitsu guy, Seann, and a wrestler, and I know that he thought he was predisposed to this stuff. And I remember that when he got to Winnipeg, he's like, I can't do any, like, it's a whole nother thing. It's fighting in a straitjacket, right? You're using you're tying one hand off, you're tying the guy off, and you're also like that, you're using that to keep yourself up as well as keep him at a distance. Also, doing anything on skates is a workout.
Yeah.
Like going anywhere on skates, doing anything with that stuff on your feet is a workout. And so, like, I have a surplus of respect for Seann and everyone that fought in our movie, because I would see every time they'd call cut, kid had blood drained out of his face and just, I'm dying here, this is crazy. George LaRocque is huge. And you're like, he's big, he's so big.
His hand would just be like, I thought The Rock was big, but George LaRocque is big.
He's a big boy. That's the biggest vegan you'll ever meet. The world's meanest vegan.
Wow.
So in Xavier Laflamme, I saw this chance to, he was representative of so many different things, pitfalls that young players can fall into. There's plenty of guys that get shell-shocked after being laid out like that, and they return to hockey very gingerly. There's also guys that, when given too much free time, can fall prey to vices. And then also, I've seen firsthand how my province can churn out some of the greatest hockey players in history, but eat them alive inside of a couple of hours. It's just a combination of pressure and fear and weakness and all these different things, all wrapped around the pure talent of it. These guys are so much more, these guys are way more frustrating when they have all this latent, natural, just pure, raw talent, often unfulfilled. And often it's the guys that are drafted in the 8th round that can just show up every night that play for 20 years. And the guys that get drafted first often only play for 3. And so the minute I had this idea for this character. I was like, it couldn't be anyone but Marc-Andre, who, you know, I've been a fan of for a long time, and he's a good friend of mine, and I just think he's one of the greatest actors in the world right now. And I thought that, like, America deserves to know who he is, and he deserves to have America know who he is. And again, I wrote this part for him, and so every step of the way, I had him in mind and his voice in my head, and he just killed it above and beyond. And watching the two of them together, it's a really strange and interesting dynamic. They're very in that respect, it's a super unconventional buddy flick. But that is the movie. It's you and Marc-Andre. We've had precious few criticisms, but the ones that have them are guys. Every girl I know really digs it. Some of them have to look away. But like I grew up around tough chicks, and so like my mother and my sister, they love this movie, you know. And but yeah, I think they respond to that dynamic. They see the two of them together, and they know that all Xavier needs is to know that somebody's looking out for him, and all Dougie wants is for people to like him. And at a certain point, he doesn't even care if they like him. He just wants to do his job.
I think too, it's a testament. I mean, when I read the script, I was, you know, blown away, and I can't be as articulated about how many different levels there are to it as opposed to anything else I've read. I mean, this movie is, it's hard for me to be specific about why it's so great and why I love the script so much, because the characters were all they're written with obviously such a unique voice and a real attack of a plan, you know, but the character, you know, Doug is such a good guy, and he's so real and so likable, and he's so honest and earnest, and I think that's one of the reasons why, like you said earlier, that we can get away with some of the things that happen, but it helps a lot. And I've never seen any movie like that. I've never seen any movie really like Goon, you know. I mean, I do think of Slapshot, you know, but this is still so different, and I think, but the character, the main character with Doug, I just think he's just such a good guy and a different character. I can't really remember.
No, and he
a character
exists.
like it.
He exists in his own plane of reality.
Right.
Like he's not dated, and he's not from the future. He'll make just as little sense 50 years from now as he does now. Like he's just his own thing, and all the and what's greatest in literature and movies are guys like that. Those guys are, you know, it's Peter Sellers and being there.
Damn it, that's what I was looking off to just say.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Everyone wants to be there like, what the fuck is this? And then they want to be better when they're spend some time.
That's exactly right. It's, you know, he goes about affecting change, you know, and making everybody better. And you know, there are dudes like that in arts. There's dudes like that in sports. There's guys that just sort of, they play for the right reasons, and as a result, everyone else around them is better for it.
There's a lot of firsts for me in this movie, and first of all, I don't think I've ever played a character that had a relationship with a girl. Right, dude? I think I've kissed more dudes in movies than like ever had. Yeah, that was right. It was a little weird though, because when I had the kissing scene, Jay was right there, and I was like, "Bruh, you wrote it." So, but
I know.
she's so. I always when I with Allison, you know, she made it seem so effortless when she was working, and I mean, obviously she's such an adorable, sweet, you know, beautiful girl, but I always had this. She reminded me of performances from like Mia Farrow and like old school Diane Keaton back in Woody Allen times, but obviously totally different because she's her own unique person. But when I watched the movie, it just even showed even more like wow, like that I knew that she had this master plan and had you know sculpted this character together that you know was really well written, but then she added all these colors. But then I was like, you watch, I'm like, it was so amazing. And then the relationship between my character Doug and her character that is really unique and really sweet and gentle in ways.
And just sort of simple and pure.
Right.
And it was just like, you know, for me it was like I'm very fortunate for many reasons that we got Allison in this movie. Beyond the fact that I'm marrying her, it's more importantly, she just like, she elevates everything, you know. Oh, thanks. Yeah. She elevates everything that she's in, I find. Even things that need no elevation, she finds a way to make them even better. And she's just one of the most talented actors in the world right now. And like he said, she's just constantly thinking and has an actual take on things and knows what she wants to do. And it was, again, another thing sort of similar to the old thinking, you know, with the Liev character, where everyone said, you got to make him meaner. You know, everybody, often people would be like, why? I don't get this relationship. Why would they be together? I'm like, because they like each other. Like, what else is there? Like, I'm sick of, in movies, like, so-and-so responds to this person because of this circumstance or this thing that they have in common. Like, when is it like that? You know, in my experience, people dig each other or they don't. And there's plenty of people that, like, we can't find any rhyme or reason for why they'd be together, but it's none of our business anyway. They have this thing. And I really love the idea that we have, you know, for lack of better terms, we have kind of an idiot and kind of a slut. And together they find this place, they find this thing, and we never see it consummated. And because that's the other thing is that, like, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is and it was when I wrote it, and it is in seeing it, is when they wake up next to each other, still in the exact same position, still fully clothed. Because, and it's not that they won't ever do anything. I imagine they will at some point, but it's not that. It's just like, it's old school, man. Like, it's literally just an old-timey love story, you know, under the guise of a very coarse chick and a very slow dude. But like, I just. And I knew that would be what makes our movie transcend, you know? Like, I didn't want to just make something that was alpha male, frat boy nonsense, because that's just not me, and I don't respond to that. Go figure. I wanted something that would, like, make just as much sense to a guy that likes hockey as to like, a gay kid who hates hockey. I just wanted there to be something nice and real and pure and genuine in all of it. And like, I think our movie, there's precious little cynicism in it. I think you walk away from the movie being like, well, that was kind of nice. Wow, people still make nice things. You know, even though it's more violent than anything that's come out of the studios in a decade, it's probably it's got the biggest heart of any movie in a long time.
We premiered up at the Toronto Film Festival, which for me was just an incredible experience because this is the first chance that I've had as an actor to play a real part, to get a chance to act, really. I've always in the past I've appreciated every opportunity, but I've always played characters where I'm just trying to, make somebody laugh or whatever. And this was a full-on, like, the whole reason why I moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting was a dream come true. So the film festival was just, I'd never been to a film festival. They're not really showing movies I've been in the past at festivals. I'm just lucky to get in theaters. So what was awesome is that Doug Smith, who the movie's based on, Doug Glad is based on, was at the movie, and I was so worried, because I had a chance to meet him. He's such a nice guy, and he was so cool and so excited. But I was just like, man, I hope that I did it right for him, and I hope that, because he's such a badass. So I was like, I hope he doesn't knock me out for like, I wouldn't do that. But he loved the movie, and he was such an awesome guy.
He's the nicest, and not somebody you'd want to be mad at you. Doug Smith is a huge man.
Yeah. I was worried, he was like, he'd see me and be like, seriously, dude?
But he couldn't have been nicer, and he was just so, there's no bigger fan of this movie than Doug Smith, and it's, and the real life Pat is the guy that wrote the book, Adam Fratazio, his little best friend, who's like, it's neat to meet our counterparts, and they're such genuine, lovable guys that it's hard not to root for them in any scenario, and so the fact that they got to, Adam got to visit our movie, got to come up to Winnipeg, and then both of them were there at the premiere in Toronto, and it was just like, it's all love. Our movie's all love, man. It's all just good stuff. Like, honestly, we made this movie for the right reasons, all of us.
This movie is hard to describe in the fact that, like, there's so many things to love. I mean, you just, it would take a long time for me to explain all the reasons. I mean, it's got For example, I mean, I've had my family who were at the premiere in Toronto, and they know hockey, but they don't know it that well. My mom loves it. My mom, you know, like, she just loves the movie. She talks about it all the time. My girlfriend loves the movie, and she's not into violence, and she's not coming away going, wow, it was so violent. Like, everything was done for a reason. Everything was specific from the very beginning. You know, it was an incredible design, you know, that Jay had put together, and with, you know, with Mike and Evan. But I mean, it was just, you know, if you love movies, you're gonna love this movie.
Exactly.
You know, if you love to laugh, you're gonna love this movie. If you want to get lost into, you know, great characters and just a great movie, you're just gonna love it. And if you love hockey, man, you're gonna love this movie. Yeah. You love fighting, and you're gonna love this movie.
That's exactly right. I couldn't have said it better than him. Yeah.